Hey, deserving listeners, just a reminder, if you need therapy, get it. Don't use a YouTube video or any YouTube channel as a replacement for therapy. Make sure you get a therapist because you deserve it. Many of you have emailed me and said that you found a therapist for yourself, and it's just music to my ears. Let's get to the show, and let's see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
I cannot believe it. I realize he doesn't want to talk and he wants to live. If he didn't want to talk, what can I do? It made me just disappointed in him.
Okay, great. I don't recommend this is how they fight every time, but it's looking like it might be turning a corner. She has chased him down, and she has a big smile, and so I'm guessing this is going to work out given her demeanor, and that's a big part of it. If you can in a fight, if you can find what she found prior to that smile, that can usually turn a corner on a conflict right away. So just her attitude exhibited by her face, I'm guessing, will carry the day. Let's watch.
You coming? Let's go then.
So, total speculation. If we were to ask him and really get to the bottom of what his experience was in this moment, I'm guessing he would say, I was incredibly hurt and scared, and I felt alone, and I didn't know what to do. And when she came into the car with that big smile, it was a beam of warm light, this hope, maybe we could survive. And it just made me wonder. I still had questions, but it just felt so great that she chased me down, got into the car after we got in the big fight. Okay, I'm just going to take a guess it would be normal for him to feel that way, but you saw his reaction was, you coming? All right, let's go. So that lack of affect or mood or emotion expression is usually an indication of avoidant attachment style, which is an indication that when you were young, you were consistently neglected emotionally, consistently given parenting or caregiving that was not attuned, meaning that the caregivers did not notice your emotions and or did not respond in a quick enough, attuned, warm way to the child's emotional state. And this can be subtle. You can grow up in a family where your parents love you. There's no conflict. There's no abuse. Certainly avoidantly attached people can grow up in abusive families. But there's a version of avoidant attachment that I've seen professionally and personally where you have all the signs of avoidant attachment style. And listen to my full deep dive. It's available to patrons only. I don't know how long it is. I keep forgetting. It's somewhere around 10 hours of a podcast that lasts for 10 hours, maybe longer. I do a full deep dive on attachment theory. The way it's talked about, even among clinicians, is usually just scratching the surface. It is so deep and so useful. People listen to this deep dive that I do on attachment theory that I did about a year ago and say it changed their life. Not because I changed their life, but because the theory changes the theory has changed my life. Anyway. So the point is that there's a version of avoidant attachment that emerges out of obvious mistreatment, and there's a version that emerges out of no mistreatment at all, or very subtle mistreatment, I should say. That the family can be very warm and nice, and no conflict, and no abuse, and stability, and the parents are still married, and everyone loves each other, and they all go to church on Sundays, and everyone's envious of the family. And yet, the parents, although they love their children, because of the way the parents were parented, usually mild emotional neglect that they went through as a child, or maybe abuse too, but either way, the parents, although loving and great, when the child, the 2-year-old, has some kind of an emotional experience, whether it's joy, or sadness, or pain, or hurt, or fear, or jealousy, or aggravation, or they're tired, or they're in physical pain, or they're bored. There's a lot of different emotions that a child will have and expressions that they have around that. And if the parent is just consistently not there to pay attention. Maybe there are too many kids. Maybe there are too many pets. Maybe the parents are working too much. Maybe the parent is a little depressed. Maybe there's some subtle conflict in the parents and in their relationship that causes them to be distracted too much. It's just subtle little changes in your attention as a parent that makes you optimally you would notice this amount of emotion in a child, but you're only noticing this amount. And then when you do notice that, you respond, but there's a whole set of emotional expressions and signaling that a child will make that the parent is just not aware of. It's not that the parent doesn't love, it's not that the parent doesn't care, because the parent does, but because of the way they were parented or the things going on in their life, or there's too many kids, or maybe even the child expresses emotion in a way that's just different from what the parent recognizes easily. Because some kids, they come out of the womb with a disposition such that their emotional expressions are just a little foreign, a little unfamiliar to the parents. And so that can cause this mismatch. And what it ends up happening is you are just consistently neglected emotionally. Not in a vicious way, not in an obvious way, but in a consistent way that is throughout your life. And in this version of a family configuration, it looks great from the outside. You might even have a narrative as a child that your family's perfect, or at least really great. But you have avoidant attachment style and you're going, why do I have this? Well, it's usually because of this, what I'm saying. And so whatever the case may be, it seems like he's developed that. I don't know. I would have to talk with them. As I always say, I'm always speculating based on what they're showing the cameras and what the producers are choosing to show to us. So who knows? But let's rewatch that. And we could imagine what feelings he would have underneath that and watch actually what he expresses.
You coming? Let's go then.
So I will say that he communicates a little bit of vulnerability and longing through his eye contact, which I will commend him for because that seems genuine and from the heart. Aside from that, you coming? All right, let's go. Like she's just a random. He accidentally got one of those Ubers where you have to share the ride with other people. That happened to me once. I got an Uber and I was like, why are we picking other people up? And like, well, this is a sharing Uber, right? I'm like, oh no. Let's continue watching.
Bobo, relax, everything is fine. Okay, not fine, but don't stress out.
All right, so I think this is going in a good direction. He might be crying. I don't know. And we've seen enough of this to indicate the possibility that he's deeply ashamed of crying and will be covering himself up with that. And she's taking care of him, so this is good. What I hope is this gives them the foundation for particularly him to communicate, I'm deeply hurt and I'm deeply needy and I'm deeply sad and I'm deeply in love with you and I'm deeply insecure about some of the things that you've said, and can you please fix that? Let's see if he gives something along those lines, because I'm guessing, speculation, that's what's going on for him. But what we'll look for is, if that is going on with him, which is speculative, watch his avoidant way of communicating that, which is through silence, through passive nonchalantness, through escaping and hoping that she chases, through criticism. Let's continue watching.
Oh, God. I knew that you're younger and you're gonna be like this. I should have been with older man. Maybe it was my fault as well, I don't know. Maybe I behaved in some kind of way, so I made him behave that way. I don't know.
So that's great. She's thinking, maybe it's partly my fault. It's a wonderful thought to have. It's probably accurate. You both triggered each other. You both were hurt. You covered it up somehow because you're afraid to be vulnerable, or you're afraid to even acknowledge your vulnerability. So you cover it up with anger or hostility. And then you cover it up with anger, or you cover it up with nonchalantness, and then you communicate hostility or indifference, which triggers the other person, hurts them. Cover it up, nonchalantness or anger or rejection, and it seems obvious to me because it is one of the most universal things about being in a romantic or any kind of relationship.
On the way to the airport, I tried to remove some pressure from us and make him feel happy, but he doesn't care. You're a good man, everything's okay.
Yeah, his avoidance is looking extremely deep. Like, she's doing a lot to try to bridge the gap here, and all he has to say is something like, okay, thanks for chasing me down. I'm having a really hard time right now because I can't stop thinking about the fact that you basically said you don't love me. Do you have any feelings for me? Or can you just recognize that that was really hurtful for me? I mean, something along those lines, but he's total stoicism. And I'm guessing he likes what she's doing right now. I'm guessing on some level he's like, oh, I'm so happy that she's being reassuring. But she hasn't addressed the central issue here, which is that she said she doesn't love me. So until she does that, I'm just going to sit here and wait, which isn't necessarily rational because she doesn't necessarily know what is happening. And you hear her interpretation is like, I keep trying to console him, but he doesn't care. So I hope he does something here. Let's watch.
Everything's okay. Everybody loves you. Your mom loves you. Your dad loves you. You see how many people love you. Look how handsome you are. You're such a beautiful man. You're so good, man.
Okay. It's a noble try. It's obviously not working. I think the ball is in his court at this point. If this were a therapy session, which would be a weird session, but, I've had weird therapy sessions before, not in a bad way, just odd looking. And I would turn to him, I'd be like, okay, what's going on? Tell me what's going on with you, right? How are you feeling? And I'd hope to get to that vulnerable place so he could actually open up, tell her, give her a chance to take care of him.
I wanted Natalie to go to the airport with me and said bye to me, but I just felt like she was acting childish in the car. It was just, it was a tough situation to be in.
Interesting. So he's saying she was being childish in the car. Okay. I mean, there's a playfulness that she was doing that you could characterize as childish, but under the circumstances, there weren't many options available to her. And maybe her fallback mode is to be playful, to try to get something going. I mean, she's putting in a ton of effort right now to bridge the gap, and he is doing nothing. He is actively aggravating the situation. So I'm guessing what is happening for him internally is he's deeply, deeply hurt and deeply, deeply angry. That's another thing I'm wondering about his childhood traumas is what kind of anger life did he have. It's actually something that all of us have. It's just a matter of degree. Our relationship with anger, our relationship with assertiveness, our relationship with rage is all screwed up. I don't know a single person who doesn't have something about their childhood that screwed up their relationship with their own anger. Anger it's a human emotion, obviously, and it's normal and it's okay. What do we do with it? And what's our relationship with it? Do we feel our own anger? What do we do when we feel that anger? How do we take care of other people when they are angry? Because that's another trauma we can have is when other people are angry. It absolutely triggers our traumas. So it's interesting that he's interpreting it just like, well, yeah, she's completely to blame for this, and she's acting like a child. I will say there was a little bit of, I don't know what it was. It seemed like a potential passive aggression. It's like, everyone loves you, your dad loves you, your mom loves you, you're handsome. Seemed kind of pandering in a sarcastic way, but it didn't seem that sarcastic. It seemed like she was actually trying to reassure him, but I could see how maybe it could come across to him as being sarcastic. I don't know. His level of avoidance and his level of, shall I say, nonchalant hostility it seems very rigid, which doesn't bode well, because he has to have at least another mode available to him so that he can communicate his needs effectively.
In my perfect world, you should apologize and take me on your hands and kiss me. And after I say, okay, it's my fault.
So she's doing a great job. I mean, she's just like, in my perfect world, you apologize to me and you show me that you love me, and then I say it's all my fault. I mean, and she's being light about it. She's not hostile. There's a lot of different ways to do what she just did, but that was a very noble effort. And he's like, let's rewatch that. Now, again, he can have a problem with that. He could be like, what? It's not all my fault. Okay, communicate that. Like, be vulnerable, connect with those feelings, be like, okay, so according to you, your version is, I apologize first because I don't think that's fair. I feel like you're the one that should be apologized. You were the one who said you didn't love me. You were the one that threw the ring in my bag, and that was really hurtful. You should apologize. I mean, give the conversation a chance here. So let's rewind that and watch that.
And after I say, okay, it's my fault. Because this is not my perfect world.
Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, do we?
I mean, if we're going to look for something to commend him for, is that he's not being overtly hostile. He's definitely being hostile with his nonchalantness. But we've seen other couples where there's screaming and even violence. So it's a good thing we don't see those things, if I'm going to look at the positives.
Okay, remember you put me on the slabочный role. Can you put me again?
No. You should be serious for a moment, Natalie.
I came here to the airport with you. I'm next to you. What can I do for you?
There's nothing we can do now. I'm leaving. Just because you're saying this stuff right now is not going to change anything right now.
All right. So he says, you need to be serious. All right. And I thought that was, he had realized, we got to talk. I've got to lay some things out on the line. And she says, okay, I'll be serious. I'm here with you. I came with you to the airport. What do you need from me? Tell me, please. Communicate. What's going on with you, is what she's saying. And then he says, well, it's too late now. I'm at the airport. Maybe they'll talk about this later, and maybe he just doesn't know what's going on for him. And maybe he's so triggered and so rageful that he can't access that stuff right now. So let's watch.
You know that, right? You need a taxi or what?
No, I want to go with you.
Okay, so maybe this is the beginning. Maybe next time we'll see them actually having a conversation and he can actually open up and give her a chance here. Let's see what happens next time. All right, now, subscribe if you want, give an upvote if you want, comment below if you want, become a patron if you want, hit the bell if you want. You'll get notifications and you can just watch the video straight from your email. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.